You know, every time I come here, I'm more and more reticent to open these doors. Ah, little one, I am ever trying to avoid the intricacies of vampire politics. Because the vampires of Frosthaven have become a bickering group of children, more concerned with station and wealth than they actually are, making things better for vampires as a whole. Don't get me wrong, they do have their uses from time to time, but I have never once found a reason for them to be this organized. Oh, blame Elias for this tomfoolery. I was never fully in support of his decision to do this, but he's my friend. I trusted him. Oh, I still do, but admittedly, the next time he and I speak, he's going to get an earful. A bunch of jumped up young bloods think they can summon me. As well. If anything untoward happens, I'll not be held accountable for it. These vampires always make my blood boil, and that's saying something for me, isn't it? Yes, I suppose we'd better get going. For all I know, they're planning on making us wait. Oh, because that would be absolutely something that they would do. They're the kind of people that like to show their power by making you sit in a room and twiddle your thumbs. Well, there's nothing to worry about right now. They can't do much to me anyway, but still, let's try to avoid any unnecessary combativeness, yes? I'm more saying it for my own good. Come on, let's go. Well, I'll be damned. I guess there's a welcoming party.
Deacon, it's so wonderful to see you.
You as well, Corey. How have you been?
Of late? Better. Not having that bastard Hunter around certainly livens up the mood of this old city.
Indeed. If half the rumors I've heard are true, the vampires of Frosthaven have been lighting up every blood parlor, club, and night haunt for the last few weeks.
Well, can you blame them? The entire vampire community has been on edge. Each and every one of them assumed they could be next. Now, we can all breathe a sigh of relief.
Yes. I mean, he was only here for one of us, in fact.
Yes. And that was regrettable. You have no idea how the Conclave regrets not being able to do more for you. How are you feeling, by the way?
Oh, just wonderfully now. Granted, once again, it was not a vampire who saw me through my recovery.
Come now, Deacon. We know we had to keep some distance until we were sure that the hunter Tobin was acting on his own. The last thing the Coven needed was to get in the way of what might have been a U.S. warrant.
Oh, I know quite well what the families thought of the matter. I'm just glad I have friends like Wander who are a lot less fair weather.
Yes, I hear you've been making quite a few new friends of late. Speaking of which, who is this enchanting creature? It's wonderful to meet you. I'm Korelia. Though, as you've seen, everyone simply calls me Corey. I must admit, I cannot remember the last time a human set foot in this place. Well, like I said, it's wonderful to see you making new friends, Deacon.
Indeed. It's nice to have people around me who are a bit more trustworthy.
Even if they have fleas.
Careful now, Corey. Say what you will about me, but the only reason I'm standing here right now is because Caleb saved my life. I'll not have you insult him.
Forgive me, Deacon. It's just a little strange. We're more than a little bit of mortal enemies, if you remember.
It was a werewolf and a vampire who founded this place, if you remember.
Indeed. Have you heard from dear Elias recently? I always worry about him.
Oh, he's quite content on his mountaintop. And that's all he bade me to tell any of you.
Of course. I'm sure if he were in Frosthaven for this whole debacle, he might have talked some sense into you.
Meaning?
Let's be fair, Deacon. You shouldn't have taken any action without first consulting us. You know our rules. Hells, you practically helped to write them.
No, practically about it, Corey. I was there. Elias and I both were.
Then you should know how these things are supposed to be handled.
I do indeed. But seeing as this was more of a personal matter, I figured it would be best not to drag the council into it. I didn't want you to have to jeopardize your positions.
That wasn't your decision to make, Deacon. It should have been left with us. It should have been left with me.
My dear, do I have to remind you of who I am?
Do I have to remind you? I lead this conclave. Mine is the strongest coven in all of Frosthaven. Careful now, my little human. There are protocols to be observed. Humans are to remember their place in this chamber.
And you really should remember whose presence you're in, Korelia. I may not hold a seat on your precious little council, but I am still me. And I am more than happy to remind you of that.
Please, Deacon, let's be completely fair. Your day is more than past. as evidenced by the most recent events.
Careful now, Korelia, or I'll stop being as polite as I have been.
Really? Should we go over some of your more recent failures then? Because of you, a hunter was brought to our home. Because of you, members of our covens were hunted and killed. Because of you, a damn fear was turned loose on all of us. You've broken some of our most sacred covenants.
How do you know about...
Orion. You didn't think we would have one of our agents looking into the hunter? We found all the same things you did. We know all about your progeny.
Well then, you seem to be up to speed. I guess there's no reason for you to have been brought in the first place. You got there all on your own.
I lead this coven. I lead the vampires of Frosthaven. You do not get to circumvent me in decisions, and you do not get to tell me what is or is not my business.
Funny. Back in my day, as you kings put it, if a vampire wanted some privacy, he would always be allowed it.
Well, it's not your day anymore, Deacon. Times have changed. We've changed. Everything has changed.
And you should be glad it has. If these were older days, older times, Deacon would not have shown you this much restraint. Korelia, my dear, how are you?
My lord, I didn't know you had come to Frosthaven. None of us have heard from you in so long.
Indeed, much like Deacon, I've come to appreciate my privacy, my solitude. But recent events merited a return to this lovely place you call home.
We are honored that you're visiting, my lord. If there's anything we can do to...
I know, my dear, I know. And you have no idea how much I appreciate that. But I must ask you a favor.
Anything, my lord, just name it.
Would you give Deacon and I a moment? I'd like to speak with him privately.
Of course. I'll just be in the council chamber if you need anything.
Thank you, my dear. Well, she seems to not like you very much, old friend.
No, she doesn't. Then again, I guess I can't blame her.
You do give ample reason to be disliked.
Whatever could you mean?
You've met you, right?
I have. And I quite like me.
How have you been?
Better of late. I'm finally back on the mend. What about you, though? How have you been?
I'm well. Elias sends his regards, by the way.
Gods, it has been far too long since all of us have been together.
Over 150 years, at least.
How is his research going?
Good. Slowly, but good. He thinks he may be close to a breakthrough. Granted, he's thought that for the last 100 years, so who's to say?
I'm glad to see his spirit isn't dampened with age. Sometimes it's hard after you pass the 400 mark.
Indeed. I'm glad he's keeping his fervor. What about you, though? 500 years looks good on you.
I'm keeping active. That's the secret, you know. Just keep active. I'm sure you'll be all right.
Oh, I'm doing just fine. Don't you worry, young man.
Of course. Closing in on the big 600, aren't you?
And yet I don't look a day over 300.
Goodness, little one, I am so sorry. This is a very, very old friend of mine.
Who are you calling old?
Meet Vlad.
Vlad Tepes, my dear. At your service.
Oh, you'd know him by his other moniker. Dracula. Yes, that Dracula.
I didn't realize we were being so formal with our titles. Ivan. Well, I could always call him Praetor. But he really hates that one.
Oh, because I've well and truly moved past that one. My count.
Could have fooled me with how you were speaking to Corey. Trust me, he was a minute away from breaking out a sword and his war heraldry.
I was not about to do all of that.
Really? You forget, old friend. I know you far too well.
I'd like to think I've grown and gotten better.
True. We're both a far sight away from the Legion.
It was a long time ago, and better left for another conversation.
Indeed. Besides, we have more pressing matters to attend to.
We do?
My old friend, you had to know I would find out.
Well, either you or Elias, or perhaps both.
Both. It was both. And you had to know that I would come out and see you.
Yes.
I'm not going to chastise you. You're old enough to understand the mistakes you've made in all of this. Hells, I've made the same mistakes myself. But unfortunately, the question now is what you plan on doing about your wayward son. Something has to be done. He cannot be allowed to roam freely and continue causing mayhem all in the name of his misplaced desire for revenge. No matter how justified or not he feels, he cannot be allowed to continue hurting people. Tobin was a solid plan, and had it not been for your new friends, it probably would have worked. Unfortunately for you, you escaped his machinations. Yes, unfortunately, because now he'll be angry. Angry and desperate. In the best of situations, that can be a bad combination. Now, add to that, it's all wrapped up in a supernatural child with a grudge and the power to see it through. And he is your son, after all.
Meaning?
Don't play the fool with me, Ivan. I was with you through the campaigns. You were my right hand. I know exactly how hot-headed you were back then. He's your son. If he even has half of the fury you did, well, The only advice I can give you is that you'd better find him quick.
I've been trying. Or at least I've been starting to try.
And what progress have you made? As I thought.
Little one!
Oh, don't be angry with them. Speak the truth to me before all others. You and I have always counseled one another in times like these, and offered the aid we could.
I know, old friend, I know. Unfortunately, I don't know how much you can aid me in this one.
Don't be so sure about that.
Meaning?
A gift from me to you. Well, if I'm being fair, it's from Elias as well. We did a little digging. Infinite time on this earth can be a blessing. I've got a network of spies and watchers. It only took a few phone calls to find this.
Is this?
His safe house. Best case scenario, you find him there and put this to bed. One way or another. Worst case, he's gone. But you find another lead. One way or another means either Deacon talks his son down or kills him. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground here. Orion has too much capacity for violence and destruction.
If he's allowed to roam, he could bring untold misery to far too many innocent people. I obviously don't want to think about killing my own son, but...
But sometimes, you don't have a choice, do you?
No.
You won't be alone, though. I'll be nearby, if you need anything.
You're staying?
Did you think I'd leave you to fend for yourself? Come now, old friend. We've been through far too much for that.
You have no idea how much I appreciate that, Vlad. Do you need a place to stay?
No. I'm headed over to see Wanderer. He's set me up with something. Oh, yes, I know Wanderer. He owes me a few favors, after all.
Hell, don't you know his real name?
Shh, don't tell anyone. I'd never get any rest again if people knew that I knew that.
Fair enough.
Now, if you'll excuse me, traveling is exhausting, and I could use some rest.
You didn't use your plane to get here.
Of course I did. That doesn't mean I still don't get road weary. I like you. Keep an eye on him, yes? Good. I'll see you both soon. Deacon?
Vlad? Well, now we have a lead at least. Yes. The starting point is something I was lacking. Gods love that man for that. So, shall we begin then? No. To hell with the council. I feel no need to sit here and wait for them to judge me. I'm above that. I always have been. Maybe it's time I start remembering who I am. Yes, well, come on. I feel no need to wait any longer. You and I have work to do. Yes. Besides, now you have to tell me, what was it like meeting the actual Dracula?